What's up, y'all? Welcome into the LA Sports Brotherhood. It's me, Brian, here with my brother Matthew. The season is fast approaching. No more waiting. It is Thursday as we record this. We are about to drive to Vegas, just hours from now. The football season has already started. We've seen a top 10 team lose in Ireland for some reason, but with upsets coming, it means that it's time for college football. We're doing a USC schedule prediction. We're looking at everything right now. As of right now, we have 4 ranked matchups, potentially the biggest one coming up in week 1. So, Matt, we got LSU on Sunday. How are we feeling?
Yeah, so in my opinion, this is the biggest game of week 1. I think this has as much of an impact on the college football playoffs as any other game. And I've gone back and forth with this one. Really, what's making it so difficult is the fact that they have just an absolute elite offensive line, and our rush defense. Don't know if it'll improve too much, but however, I think we're in very similar spots right now, and I expect big games from one of the wideouts. I expect us to run the ball, and everything you can say about Miller Moss. Will he be comfortable? He'll be nervous. You can also say about the LSU quarterback. And I'm just going to trust Lincoln Riley to score points. I'm going to trust the defense to tackle more, and I have us barely escaping with a win, no more than a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm decided to be positive going into the season. Like, genuinely, I feel like this team has actual potential to succeed greatly this year, and this is like the kind of first year in a building block of steps. But yeah, I fully agree. This is the most important. Like, the outcome and the process of this game is the most important in determining the season. The first game always kind of feels like that, but with such a high variability to me, with like the low end where I like you're 6-6, and the high end when you're in the Big Ten championship game. I think the way they perform here is important, and honestly, I do think they're gonna win. I We'll talk about it in the specific LSU preview, so I won't get too deep into it. But I think there's a lot of matchups specifically based on, because I've been low key going on the LSU fan boards and looking at the reporting and stuff. They don't feel great about their DBs. They don't feel great about their interior offensive linemen. Like, their starting left guard was in a walking boot just last week. Their center's having some issues. So I think there's a chance for us to attack their weaknesses in a way that USC is kind of made for. So yeah, I think they can beat LSU. I will say, I think the line on it, like the over under is like 55, almost 60 points. I don't know if USC wins. I don't think it's a high scoring game. It's a normal scoring game, but I don't think it's like a 40 point whatever. Because if that happens, I don't know. That means LSU's running the ball, and if USC can't stop the run, it's not going to go well. But I do think USC will win, thinking maybe 1 or 2 touchdowns, because LSU's quarterback's really going to have to show that he can carry. But we spend a little more time at LSU. Obviously, super important game. Going to Utah State, or Utah State is coming to LA. Very clear, going to win that game.
Yep, gonna win. Nothing else to say.
Yeah. So I think right now, 2-0 going into Michigan on September 21st. That is not unreasonable. I think that is what's going to happen. Obviously, we're predicting. So in the big house, Michigan, our first Big Ten road game, hostile environment, legendary place to play. What are you thinking?
It's gonna be really rough. I think if this was at the Collie, maybe a different story. But I don't know. Getting them in their house, the defending champs, and I know new head coach. Lots of different players. Edwards is a really physical back, and that O line's always going to be good. Sharon Moore, will not let them have a bad O line, and we know what USC's weakness should be this season. Maybe they shock the world and they can stop the run at a high level, but they're going to run it down our throats, and I don't think it'll be a blowout. I think we can score on them, even though they have an elite defense, but it's just our weaknesses are their strengths in the biggest stadium in the country. I'm going to say USC loses in like a low scoring 24-17 game, something like that.
Yeah, I think your point about our weaknesses are their biggest strengths is, excuse me, is true. Not only for the play style and like just the literal talent, but the actual best version of a Lincoln Riley offense is high octane. We're scoring very quickly, and the best version of Michigan is deep possession control, bruising your defense, wearing them down. So even if it is USC's able to score with them, USC has to be able to control the ball as well. Because if the defense is tired, it's not going to be going well. Because the depth, especially in the front seven, is incredibly thin, in my opinion, at least. The experience depth, I'll say, because freshmen might pop off, but the experience depth in the front seven for USC, very tough. Again, what this is, it's difficult to go like 3 weeks ahead, not knowing how teams look, but just like right now, USC will have to be able to control the ball when they're on offense. And it's possible, but I think some run stuff needs to change. So yeah, unfortunately, I think this is the first L. But I think another one, I think we have a short about this. The process of this game is also very important because if they fight and they just don't pull it out because they're in Michigan, I'm going to be very encouraged by a loss, which isn't great. But if it's a genuine fight, I think the rest of the season can be huge because we enter a stretch of 6 games or so where Penn State is the only ranked team, and even then, I don't think the matchup is crazy. But that being said, Wisconsin's next, and after that, it's kind of like the middle of the Big Ten. So let's start with Wisconsin in this little stretch.
I got to win. You know, they're coming to the Collie. I don't think Wisconsin will be able to stop us. I don't think they'll be able to, control the ball and pound the ball down our throat. I think that's the only way you're really going to beat this Trojan team is if you punch us in the mouth like Utah used to these past 2 years and you hold the ball and control it. I don't think Wisconsin can do that. Long story short.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I would also have USC winning this game. I will say prime Wisconsin is a perfect matchup nightmare for SC, but this is not prime Wisconsin. So yeah, I think this is a USC win. So
I'll give them a couple more years with Fickle.
yeah,
They'll get there.
it is interesting. Last year they kind of started transitioning slightly out of pure pound the ball with like always having an elite running back. They started throwing a lot more relative to their own like their excuse me, relative to their history. So it's going to be interesting to see if they continue that shift because Luke Fickle's definitely more of that type of style. So yeah, but I mean, this is not a Wisconsin podcast, so who cares? I think 3-1 after the first 4 games is incredibly possible. Like not even just like kind of positive schedule prediction. Like if it's 3-1 going into Minnesota, I think it's like I would believe it fully. So yeah, we're going into Minnesota week 5 or game 5.
This might be an ugly game. Road game, not great environment, but we're gonna take the win. We're the better team, and Lincoln Riley. We've had some stinkers on the road where we pull out, but we have yet to lose to an unranked team on the road. That was just like, what are we doing? So, this is a win.
That is true. I think this is where schedule predictions get tricky because in my head, my heart says, I guess it's a spoiler. I think this is an 8-4, 9-3 ish team. But as you look at individual matchups, I'm like, there's no reason to lose to Minnesota. There's no reason to lose to Maryland. There's no reason to lose to Rutgers. Not saying they would ever lose to Rutgers in the first place, but it's just like I think it's just the general wear of playing these games. Like you said, going to Minnesota in October is not going to be like a nice game. It's not going to be. It probably won't even be fun to watch. Honestly, it's going to be nasty. Minnesota always plays these teams hard. And USC, the talent threshold, absolutely USC is blowing through that. But yeah, I think this is a win. I'm not going to say otherwise, but this is the point where, like going to Maryland after we'll get to it later. Like those are games where it's a different environment. Not that it's going to be hostile, but it's just so different that it's tough to envision they're going flawless. But that's probably I would say in terms of Big Ten seeding and like jostling for the conference championship game, this might be the biggest game because I feel like Penn State, they're coming to LA, is like the biggest competition, the most comparable, like they're right next to each other in the conference type of comparison right now. So this is, I would say this is a pretty big game. What do you think with Penn State?
This is a massive game. I feel like the Big Ten's going to try to make this a rivalry. We have a little bit of history with the 2 Rose Bowls we beat them in.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough. Penn State last year was a great defense, just atrocious offense, but they have gotten a new offense coordinator. For them, I feel like I've watched a lot of Penn State for some reason. They're going to want to, if they have a competent coach, because last year was atrocious, they should be running the ball with their 2 great backs, and play action off of that with Aller, who has a strong arm. The problem is they don't really have that many weapons.
Yeah.
So this is This is really tough. If this was at Penn State in like a whiteout, I would, of course, I would say they would take the win. I wish I could answer this after watching that Michigan game,
Yeah.
but right now, unfortunately, I just can't like justify the logic I use for Michigan. Maybe not at that level, but Penn State should still be able to do what I said Michigan would do to us, which is just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, control the game. I want to, I really want to go USC, but objectively, I think Penn State, pulls out and an absolute heartbreaker for USC, similar to that Utah game from last year.
Yeah, I like the comparison with Michigan that you said because to me, Penn State traditionally has been like Michigan light, where they're basically just Michigan put together, but kinda just can't reach that height. They don't have like the talent, the literal just the 5-star talent, like the recruits to bring in to really match that. But I think their Penn State running back stable is better than what Michigan has. Nick Singleton and Katron Allen are crazy. Like that, they're really good. And I think I will say this is one of the games where, like you're saying, if USC plays Michigan well, like really actually shows that they can hold up, then this is a game that they absolutely can win, much more than the Michigan game to me. But yeah, right now I gotta say that this is their second loss of the season.
Yeah, if USC loses by like 3 to 7 points in Michigan, and we can actually stop the run a little bit, after that game, I will say we'll beat Penn State because theoretically, like we said, they're kind of a less Michigan, and if you play a less Michigan at home compared to on the road, you should be able to win that. But right now, I've yet to see that happen, so I got to go Penn State.
Yeah, yeah. I will say USC hasn't lost many home games with Lincoln under Lincoln Riley, but this is it's a different beast a little bit. So yeah, after this, no rest going to Maryland. Don't know what time it's going to be. Probably a little later. But yeah, so USC at Maryland.
I also feel this might be a little stinker. They're gonna play their
Yeah.
hearts out in Penn State. It's gonna be a freaking war.
Yeah.
They're gonna come out slow in Maryland, but they'll pull it out.
Yeah, I would say in my 8-4 like kind of pre-schedule watching prediction, this is a game where I think they're really gonna have to lock in because either they beat Penn State and they're feeling incredible, they're top 10 in the like top 10 college football power rankings for sure, and they're on a come down. Like everything is poured into Penn State, coming down, going to Maryland. Maryland is not bad. They're not good, but they're not bad. They play every Big Ten team very hard, and I think that's because of the style. Like they're well coached and they're hard nosed, and they don't really need to have a super dynamic offense. Even though Tua's little brother is actually pretty solid, but like this is a game where you have to lock in for because Rutgers, in my opinion, is not one of those games. So if you can lock in for Penn State, Maryland, and then have a short week against Rutgers, but it's Rutgers, so it should be a win. I guess spoiling a little bit. Maryland's gonna be tough. I right now, if I'm looking game by game, this is a win, obviously, because USC is just better. But I would not be surprised if this is a loss. That's where my head is right now. Because going like it's gonna be tough. We've seen so many like top 10 ranked Big Ten teams. Well, I guess Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State were like USC fans watching, waiting, hoping to move up in the standings. Like, oh, Maryland's up after the third quarter. Like this happened multiple times in the last 2 years. So this is a game we got to watch out for. But they win. So going into Rutgers coming to us Friday night, always nasty. 8 p.m. somehow later kickoffs than we had in the Pac-12. But I mean, this is a win.
Yeah, I mean that's despicable. 8 p.m. Friday game, but yeah, this is a win.
Yeah. So we're I think 6-2 going into the Washington game. Washington's interesting because if you believe that this team is just gutted the way they kind of feel, this should be an easy win. But we're still going to Washington, and Washington hates us. Like, I mean, every team, former Pac-12 team, hates us. But like, I don't think this is going to be as easy of a game as people think, because I don't think Washington's going to just fall off a cliff. I don't think they're going to be great, but they should still be bowl. Like, they should be in contention for a bowl game. And I don't know. I think they win. I'm not going to say they lose, but this is another one where it's like I feel like the energy around this game just from fans is too low. Like it's still a power. Like they were in the championship last year. A lot of people left, coach left, but I feel like we got to respect it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough road game, and
Yeah.
it is weird that no one's treating it like that. But yeah, it's a tough road game. I think it'll be like a one-score game, but I mean USC will have more talent, but they'll be
Yeah,
well coached. They'll be at home. There'll be a loud crowd. It's gonna be a tough game.
yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like ugly game expected.
Yeah.
Um, we'll go to Nebraska, or Nebraska comes here. I don't know much. I know Matt Rule is over there. He's trying to make things happen. They're another team that's like traditionally you have a good running back, and then like you kind of have that ground and pound, like really physical, literal corn-fed team. Rule, I don't know what Rule's plan is. I think they were also kind of starting to throw a little bit more, even more than like Wisconsin was. But I don't. USC wins. I don't. Nebraska's a blue blood by name, but not really by game for the last 20 years.
Yeah, they're gonna. I think they're gonna throw the ball more. They got Rayola, who's a talented freshman, but
Yeah,
they're they shouldn't beat us at home. Maybe if in Nebraska it'd be a different story.
yeah,
We're more talented than them. What they're gonna try to do with Rayola is what Lincoln has done for the past his whole career. We'll take the win at home.
yeah. So right now we are 10 games into the season, and our official prediction is 8-2. And that brings us to a tricky. I'm going to combine these last two. It brings me specifically to a tricky little place because UCLA and Notre Dame classic pairing to end the season. USC is beating UCLA. They are, and USC always beats Notre Dame at home. So in my mind, as I go game by game, I think they're gonna go 10-2. I guess I'll kick it to you before we get into like a little wrap up. UCLA, Notre Dame. I doubt you feel any differently.
Yeah, Notre Dame is like I'm not gonna say they're overrated, but I think we just think like, oh, physical. Their front seven is not like typical Notre Dame. Their secondary is phenomenal, but it's not. They have a little bit of depth issues, and their receivers are just god awful, like just horrible.
Yeah,
And I do like Riley Leonard, but it's just. And then they also have a kind of new offensive line, and I always expect their offensive line to be good. But what I'm thinking is like, if we play Michigan hard, we lose. We play Penn State at home hard, we lose. This is again that same style that's going to run the ball. I don't think we're going to lose a third time to that type of team, especially when they're worse. This would be for a playoff spot because Notre Dame has a weak schedule. Like literally, it might be like winning in.
yeah,
Whoever doesn't win is out. So this will be freaking phenomenal. And like you said, I really feel comfortable against Notre Dame at home. I think we'll be able to score on them. Truly, I think we'll be able to run the ball. We obviously have those playmakers. If we can just because I'm sorry, they're not a threat. To throw the ball that well. As good as Riley Leonard are, their playmakers are absolutely horrific. So if we can pack the box, because realistically, we just packed the box against that game with Caleb that we won at home, and that god awful defense was able to hold up
yeah.
against the run. A much better coach, much better scheme, and better players. I think we'll be able to hold them off and score, and beat them at home, and 10-2.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I won't get too deep into Notre Dame, but like they're a team where you kind of, if you like, they already don't have names on the back of their jersey, but like if you strip away the identity of all the players and all the coaches, you just say, hey, this is a Notre Dame team that's a top 15 type team this season. You're going to know what it's going to be. You can change up the players, you can even change up the talent. It's just something about Notre Dame where it's like they're going to have elite offensive line, quarterback that should be better, no receivers, massive running back that could run through arm tackles, and that's just what it's going to be like every single year. So if you can stand up to that concept, like you're saying with Michigan, Penn State, I do think of the three, Notre Dame, ironic seven, they're ranked 7, 8, 9, right in front of each other, right to start the year. But like Notre Dame has the least talent ceiling to me, even though they are probably the most talented objectively. It just, I don't know, something about Notre Dame, it never hits like that. So yeah, right now 10-2, like our official schedule prediction, if we go game by game. And I will say, like that Maryland game is tough. The Washington game shouldn't be tough, but it's scary. Not scary. It's something to keep an eye on. Frankly, I think. Oh, you know what? We didn't mention the same way we talked about Maryland as a come down game. Wisconsin after Michigan could be a very big like come down. It's at home, so that's why it's different to me. I think it's going to be taken care of, but like especially if it's like a heartbreaking loss against Michigan, I think that's another game to watch. So I think 10-2 was around the ceiling of what I was thinking, for the schedule, like as we talked about it before, I don't think it's unreasonable, especially like going game by game now. But if it's 8-4, I do think it's those little pockets where it's like we could really see something change. But yeah, so 10-2, Matt, are you feeling like we're a little too positive? I know you're higher on this team than I am, even though I'm still pretty high on them. But final
No,
thoughts
I
you
mean,
got?
one thing to keep in mind is like 8-4 is also very possible. I mean, we have Notre Dame
Yeah,
and LSU. We have those. We have them winning by one score. So if that flips another way, you're looking at 8-4. We also said there's going to be like three different away games where like we could drop that one.
yeah,
So I think we're being realistic. I think we're just when predicting, you're not going to say Miller throws a pick in this fourth quarter against Maryland. You
yeah,
don't predict those.
exactly.
You're just kind of but we are aware that these could be losses. I think this is if USC plays the way we think they can play, it'll be 10-2. But they could go as low as 7-5 like last year.
Yeah,
But
I mean that is a thing. Yeah, like I think it's specifically because we only play two of the high end Big Ten teams, and I genuinely think USC is better than all of the other like mid level Big Ten teams. So that's why I don't have an issue with this, honestly. But yeah, like we were saying, LSU game, biggest game of the season by far. If we start with the loss, especially if it doesn't look great, 7-5 might be on the way. Like truly, if the USC wins in the way that they should win against LSU, 10-2 is very possible. So yeah, speaking of LSU, make sure you stick around tomorrow. The LSU specific game preview is going to be out, so make sure you check that out as well. Feel free to subscribe. We're going to be back with a lot more stuff, especially with the season finally kicking off. It's going to be a lot, and we're really excited about it. So thanks so much for watching. Go Trojans. Talk to y'all soon.